Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Chris and Ben and special guest Matthew on Outer Rim Transmission episode 177. This week, it's all about Skeleton Crew. It's our preview of this first season. Will there be more? Who knows? Only one way to find out. But we'll be talking also about Star Wars Hunters and more on this week's podcast. So, yes, I hope everybody out there in the U.S. especially was enjoying a nice Thanksgiving with the family, with the friends, and got some relaxation in. Ben, how's it going, man? How was your Thanksgiving?
It was fine. It was fine. Just had some family stuff going on, but other than that, just the traditional type of Thanksgiving, just like, all your basic foods, those sorts of things. So yeah, it was a pretty good Thanksgiving overall. I'm really excited though, just to get back to dieting starting tomorrow because I have not eaten well since like Wednesday. So it's time to get back on track with that. And one thing I have discovered once again with Thanksgiving, ham is much better than turkey. So that was my big takeaway this week.
I mean, one thing about the turkey is you're just going to end up passing out afterwards on the couch watching football like you do, which is what happened again with me. But we also have somebody from across the border with us tonight. And I know me and him technically had Thanksgiving dinner about a month ago at this point. What's going on, Matthew?
Yeah, that's right. First of all, I'm just amazed why you guys are so late on this Thanksgiving thing. Didn't we? I mean, we definitely had. I very clearly remember, Chris, you and I being in Brooklyn at Dinosaur Barbecue on October 9th when Thanksgiving is supposed to be here across this line on a map called Canada. Great to be here. We're gonna be talking about Screen Story, which I don't usually do enough of. So I'll do all of that. Well, I shouldn't say not enough of, but I don't do all that often. So. Very excited to chat Skeleton Crew, chat other news going on, but good to, and also good Chris to get to be on Outer Rim Transmissions. We plug it every time on Tractor Beam, and I'll be sure to plug Tractor Beam and I on Canon. But glad to contribute to the good work you guys do over here on OTR.
Oh yeah. Just to hop in there real quick. I mean, shout out to both your podcasts as well. Like I always ask, I'm always talking about yours and Chris's podcast over here because like honestly, I always point people to it because like I don't have a lot of time to personally, keep up with the comics and things like that. And your guys' podcast is literally like how I keep up with a lot of the comics. So it's always very useful.
That's great to hear. Thanks for that, Ben. I definitely give my perspective. We give our perspective and our view, but hopefully, keep you up to date and up to speed about what happened, especially this past week, Wednesday when I went solo, and then it ended up happening. Well, so Chris, you jumped in at the beginning, and then when I actually was reviewing the books, I was actually the High Republic Adventures was I should say Tractor Beam Comics Reviews. Every Wednesday we review the comic books that came out in Star Wars that week. And I did go a little bit more in terms of what Reef is doing, what this Pathfinder team is doing in Echoes of Fear number 3, and what Rue and Drigget are doing in High Republic Adventures. What's is the one shot? No, Dispatches from the Occlusion Zone number 2. So. But it's great to hear, Ben, that people are enjoying what we're laying down, picking up what we're laying down there. So
that's the point, right? Is we're trying to spread the knowledge. Comics, I think, are like the smallest part of the fan base, right? I mean, it's usually like comics. I think the novels and games and TV, then the live action stuff we'll be talking about, but there's really good, valuable stories that come from the comics, as we've been talking about for how many episodes have I been on at this point?
We're coming up on like 63, 64 in this current iteration of Tractor Beam. So, yeah, definitely going strong. I look forward to Wednesday nights. The chat. We got something really, really good going on, Chris. So we're definitely happy to keep that going forward.
Yeah, so the whole catalyst first of all, I wanted to get you on here, Matthew, for a while now. But then I seen you did this cryptic Facebook post of you in front of a Skeleton Crew banner. And I said, wait, did you watch the episode already? So yes, Matthew has his first impressions of episodes 1 and 2, which we'll all be watching if you're watching this as we're live tomorrow, or by the time this goes on podcast catchers, it's already going to be out by then on Tuesday. So hello, future selves. But, you know, we're going to get your input without, of course, no spoilers, but just, you know, how'd you feel? So that'll be towards the end of the show. But I know, Matthew, you and I both listened to an audio book recently in the High Republic, and you recently finished it. So I want to save a little time. Usually this is our time for our week in Star Wars. We talk about what we've been doing. Honestly, I haven't been doing much but playing WoW and Dragon Age and hanging out with the girlfriend and the family for over the last couple days. But yeah, I'll throw it over to you. I'll let you take the floor with this one, with the Seeds of Starlight.
Yeah, that's right. And first off, to say George Mann, he is officially the lead in Phase 3 of High Republic. I'm considering him. I mean, yes, we know Charles Soule is going to really take it home with Trials of the Jedi, the novel, coming out in just a few months from now. Wow, that's wild to think. But yeah, so Seeds of Starlight is yet another in this series of all ages audio books, but they're audiobook originals, which is interesting. Included in your Audible subscription. Don't need to spend a credit, I don't think, on it. Kind of just like that Obi-Wan Anakin one that came out a few months ago. Yeah, and this one, again, all ages, telling this sort of pocket story a little bit of Chris, first of all, how much can I go into spoilers? Can I spoil or what?
It's fine. At this point, it's been out for a little bit, and it's a minor thing, so I don't think it'll be a big deal.
Yeah. It's minor, but I wonder if there is some major things coming up. But that's my speculation.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's not like minor asset, but I mean, it's like you go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. So it's a bit of a side story in that it's one city on Irem, kind of across the bay, across the ocean, the lake there, from where Starlight Beacon crashed in Irem, and dealing with the implications of that and facing the repercussions of this whole station crashing near this city, this town that is somewhat superstitious and somewhat, well, in this case, becomes very skeptical of the Jedi. And there was also just that first off was an interesting thing to see, so out of place for the High Republic era, of people so skeptical of the Jedi, obviously during the Clone Wars and everything Palpatine's trying to figure out later, building in that skepticism. But here, yeah, Seeds of Starlight dealing with the fact that this superstitious town, and there's these mysterious disappearances in this town, and they're of course blaming the Jedi on these disappearances. I'll just bring the big spoiler now. It turns out the great progenitor of the Drengir was brought onto Starlight Beacon. I don't know, should I keep going, Chris?
Do it.
Yeah. So the great progenitor of the Drengir was brought onto Starlight Beacon. We thought Keeve had dealt with her in the comics, but no, it turns out that the progenitors crashed, or I guess kind of drowned in the ocean there. But as a way to survive, this organism, this plant-like species, like evolution does, that sending out seeds of Starlight, these pods to reproduce and actually spawn more Drengir. And to do that, they're building this big thing we don't know about until the end what it is, but it seems dangerous and sketchy, so they want to take it out. And what they do, they end up enslaving a bunch of inhabitants of the town, and that's how what the disappearances are about. And, including Jedi Master Eve Byer, who's Padawan Cam, and characters we know, Kildo and Tep Tep. They're there on Irem too. They were investigating the Blight, but now they have to deal with this problem. And Cam, Kildo, and Tep Tep, really, and in a way that again is convincing, I think, because we're used to seeing Jedi younglings and Padawans being able to figure things out, using their intuition, using their training already. And Cam is a really interesting character. His voice was damaged, and so he has this very monotone vocoder type of thing. He's a human, but he has, I guess, I forget what species that is, that has the the voice amplifiers. And so that was also an interesting way of mixing up the voices, making it more interesting to listen to as an audiobook. And then distinguishing it from him from Kildo.
Well,
Yeah, I thought, and so that, again, an interesting, self-insert characters for younger listeners to say, here's these kids using their intuition, using their training, using his sense of connection to Eve and to Master Buyer, to his master, and to save the day essentially, and step up for himself, step up into the larger world. So that it was an enjoying read. It was enjoying listen rather. I happened to be driving a little more last few days, so I was able to listen to it more and get it done before Tempest Breaker coming out just in a few days from now. So back-to-back audiobooks. One's going to be extensively longer and more adult, I think. But yeah, it was definitely. I think I'm wondering. Here's my speculation. So the Drengir are back.
Yeah,
and they're and also I should say, I'm glad we had the time to build that in. It wasn't some all of a sudden, oh my goodness, the Drengir are back. It's okay. They're back. We can actually, like George Mann did a great job of letting us grow into that, so that they can actually come back for the end of the story.
Yes,
we know that the Blight is a problem for them, a huge problem for them. We've seen that already in, I guess, Temptation of the Force, not Temptation of the Force. Tears of the Nameless, I think. Which one? No, the adult novel. Whatever. Eye of Darkness.
Yes.
By George Mann. And we've seen that. So I'm wondering, is that going to help give them a good reason to ally with the Jedi and the Republic against the Blight, if the Nihil are not going to help?
Well, they seem pretty against, like, the Great Progenitor at the end is proclaiming, like, nobody will get in our way. We're going to flee out of the way of this thing, and whoever's in our way is going to be destroyed, basically. So it seems like right now they are a one-track violent hive mind, as we've seen here in the story. But yeah, I mean, I'm overjoyed. I was saying this for months. Like, I want to see the Drengir come back. Like, they kind of left off, completely. There was none of them in phase 2. Obviously, they weren't awakened yet. This dark side plant species that has a tendency to crave meat, like to eat humans, whatever species. It doesn't matter. They don't discriminate. But I really enjoyed that part. I think they were introduced in phase 3 with the manga, The Edge of Balance.
Yes,
because they do make
references that moment.
They did make reference to the Banshee planet. I thought Cam was a cool character. Again, I like how we're given this character, so people out there reading or listening rather can kind of feel like the character if they have a disability like that, right? It's good to have that out there, the awareness of it. Although I couldn't get over the voice. The voice was just distracting as heck for me. That was my one big gripe with the book, is like, you're living in the Star Wars era, Ben, and you can't somehow make somebody's voice at that point like a human. They have to sound like a droid. Like,
basically,
that's the weird part. We have AI right now that could talk like humans, and we almost can't recognize sometimes. So it's like crazy to me that, like, this poor kid has to settle for like the least cost-effective type of voice vocabulator. It's like, oh no.
Oh no. Oh, why did they leave this voice? I didn't mind it, but I can see people.
And then also, like, all props to the narrator for doing the voices, but Tep was also like nails on a chalkboard for me. Every time I heard Tep, this little like 10, 12-year-old girl, like, oh gosh, it's bringing back horrible memories. So besides those two character portrayal voices, whatever you want to, the processing, producing, whatever, it was pretty enjoyable. Like I told you the story last time, or the time before, the week before in the previous episode. I was running through Veterans Park on my jog as I'm in the third act with the battle of the attack on the city there, and there's Drengir, and I'm running through the woods, and I'm imagining, oh my gosh, a Drengir coming up behind me, I gotta run faster, go go go, blaster fire, lightsabers, and there's possessed Jedi. Like, this is the epitome of a George Mann story. This guy always does such a great job of injecting his cruel taste of horror in everything he does, going all the way back to Myths and Fables, which is where he got his stardom with the Star Wars publishing. And now to see him like really just embrace it, having Jedi having these vines attached to their shoulders that are basically controlling Jedi, and they're like a hive mind. Dude, this is some like crazy horror stuff. This is borderline too scary for kids at points, because it's pretty crazy.
How much do you know about the Borg? Get my Star Trek reference counter up.
Not much.
It made me think of the Borg. This hive mind. Now they're on wireless, so they're more 24th century tech there. But
okay.
to construct these they in First Contact, for example, they're constructing this beacon, and Picard and Worf have to go and stop them, and I mean that there's that reference, and I guess maybe it's more that there's a common horror reference between the Drengir and the Borg here, but this was a different a different side of the Drengir. We hadn't seen them do that before. So,
that was so cool.
Yeah, raises the stakes a little bit.
Oh yeah, I like this story does feel very valuable and important, because it is reintroducing the Drengir in all their glory, especially the Great Progenitor. I was like, there's no way that thing is dead, because it was on Starlight Beacon. I was telling you this, Matt. I was like, it was on Starlight Beacon, it crashed. Things have been oddly quiet in the High Republic of the lack of Drengir. They popped up into Temptation of the Force or whatever, the Eye of Darkness, whatever it was. And then it was like, oh, that's a fluke. That's not actually them. They're going to die anyway. No, the greater threat is out there. She's pulling the strings, and we're going to get this on top of Nile, on top of the Blight, on top of the Nameless going into the third act. That's going to start, I guess, more in like February or March or something like that. Right, we're coming around the corner on Wave 2. I guess you can consider this, with the Tempest Breaker out on Tuesday. But things are steamrolling ahead for High Republic into this last era here.
Yeah, and again, to reiterate, it didn't feel. I think it was a risk of introducing the Drengir, and I would have felt disoriented. It would have felt like, why are they back? What's going on? But because they've actually done a great job suggesting them, seating them in, even in Kevin Scott's High Republic comic with the vision, and it isn't the Drengir, but there's a vision of the Drengir by the Child of the Storm, and reminding us of what's going on. Yeah, it feels very organic, pun intended. I don't think they're organic, they're leafy, whatever.
Oh man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to get into the show proper. And as I always do here, Matthew, I talk about this week's releases. So, again, it was a weird week, because more than half of these comics I couldn't get my hands on for whatever reason. But we did have the Battle of Jakku, which I got, which you got eventually, I think, right?
I got eventually. I still haven't read it yet. So. Okay.
That's Republic Under Siege 2. All right. Then we got Dispatches from the Occlusion Zone number 2. You mentioned that, and we mentioned Echoes of Fear number 3. So there's some pretty big stuff from what I hear that happened in Echoes of Fear number 3. So I'm looking forward to hopefully reading that. If I don't get it in my comic bin on Wednesday, I'm going to just have to bite the bullet and get on digital, because as we explained on Tractor Beam, they're closing down houses of Diamond that are distributing. So now the whole pipeline is in flux. So hopefully that rights itself sooner rather than later. Supposedly it's supposed to be good by this week, so we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I've heard. Things are going to be coming in Wednesday. I got to say, of the two, maybe it was just the mindset. Maybe I have such a high bar for Echoes of Fear. I really enjoyed Dispatches, maybe even more. It was, I mean, everything, just all I'll say, we know it would build on the short story. from inside.
Oh yeah, with Drigget.
With Drigget and Rue, right? And we knew it would build on that, and so all I'll say is it does that very well, and
Well,
so
I mean,
very,
we're
in a very
intrigued.
satisfying way. So, yeah.
Woo! All right, so getting into the gaming territory for our first official story of the night. This came out of nowhere. Star Wars Hunters, guys, is coming to Steam. Yes, we got a new PC Star Wars game. Why this gets me excited, because people were burned when Battlefront 2 was pulled. Because people were really hoping that would be like the big multiplayer Star Wars game that would stick around for years on end and get updates with Mandalorian and Rise of Skywalker and things like that. Actually, it did get an update with Rise of Skywalker, I will say that. But that was the last one, I think. But other than that, we haven't had a Star Wars multiplayer game in the likes of Fortnite or Overwatch or Apex Legends that seems like it would be just $1 billion idea to have a Star Wars game always online, skins you could buy, heroes you could play as. And well, we've had that on phones for the last several months, or if you've been in other fortunate areas, I guess you got the game even sooner than us in the US did, because this game was in development for years. I played this back at Anaheim 2022 Celebration. So yeah, this thing's been around for a while, but yeah, it's going to enter Steam testing. They're going to have early access, like a little testing phase in December, 2 different weekends, and then the actual official release is coming sometime in January. So have either of you played this, by the way, Star Wars Hunters?
I personally have not. I downloaded it and then I just honestly never got around to it, just because, like, I just have to prioritize games in an order. Like, that's like one of those I'll get to it eventually games. But I mean, it's cool that they're, adding it and like adding it to Steam and expanding the player base more, which is nice. Just because a lot of people may not want to just play it on their phones and, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So, I just think this is just another good avenue of allowing people to play the game, for the people that may end up playing it. Like I said, I may eventually. It's just prioritizing gaming time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, what happened with us is we have the Star Wars Underworld gaming nights, and we pop into Discord, and I did it once or twice where we're playing Hunters, and I'm here right where I'm sitting with I got the backbone attachment to the phone. Like, I'm legit now with mobile gaming, but it's still something that I don't want to be. I'm right in front of a beautiful 32-inch monitor, but I'm staring at a 8-inch, or not even, like a 7-inch screen. It's like, what the heck is wrong with this picture? And the weirdest part was they launched this game on Nintendo Switch, so it's not like they couldn't have had this working on other consoles, which is still odd because it still hasn't been announced for Xbox or PlayStation, but now it's on everything but those two, essentially. So this is good. This is good for Star Wars to have it more, because I will be honest, I was expecting less from this game. This game has really surprised me because their updates are really frequent. It seems like every month and a half to 2 months they've been putting out consistently a new map, a new hero. They just released season 3 or 4, which has a Zabrak character with a bow and an Endor map. And then they already said when this season comes out, the next one is going to launch with the Steam update. It's going to have a I'm trying to figure out this the weird spy alien from A New Hope that's ratting out Obi-Wan and Luke at Docking Bay 94. It's something with a K. The species is something with a K.
Not Klatooinian.
No, that's Jabba's people. It's those little spy guys with the big nose. You know what I'm talking about, guys. Yeah. Anyway, there's a certain name for it, but yeah, like that's the next character. They're introducing level 1313 map. Like, this game is like, I don't know if they've front loaded the content, they've just been sitting on it, or they're actually like really on top of the development of this game, because it seems like they're constantly adding new cool skins, they're adding characters, they're adding maps at a cadence where things don't really get old too often, because you're constantly getting an influx of new content all the time. So Hopefully this is a new door for Star Wars gaming. Maybe Lucasfilm Games is going to look at this and say, hey, this is really successful. Let's get another version of Battlefront or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'll admit I'm not much of a gamer at all, so I don't know if I'll get it, but it really does seem like there's a lot of momentum here, and that's the big takeaway for me, at least, is knowing the issues. At least people had issues with Battlefront 2, and knowing the lack of output. All the stories that we've heard and you've gone over all over.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like this is sounding now like there's an uptick, right? That with Outlaws and the Outlaws DLC and with, I guess there was the other mobile game coming out, and then Hunters diversifying, and that seems to be diversifying the availability for people to have this entryway into Star Wars gaming. And from what I understand, it's a very different kind of game than Outlaws, and so, and of course, the third Jedi game is coming out eventually. So, seems to be again, these things probably take time to develop in terms of, as in the momentum, the output, kind of the reputation even of Star Wars gaming seems to take time to build its way back, but it seems to be that it is definitely building its way back, and that's always great to see. I mean, again, not a gamer myself, but great to see a lot of folks having a way into the Galaxy Far Far Away that we all know and love. Especially, I mean, gaming as an industry, of course. I'm preaching to the choir here, but it is so much more lucrative and so much bigger than anything else.
Oh,
bigger than comics. So, yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah, looking forward to diving in on this very seat, playing as my Wookiee, just crushing people. It's gonna be a good old time here on Friday nights, the Star Wars Underworld Discord. Shout out to those guys. We'll have that on lock for the next couple months when this goes on Steam. Sorry, Overwatch, you've now been overcome by the Star Wars hunters. As it should be, All right, and now this takes us to the Skeleton Crew talk. So getting into it, the first thing I want to go over is how all of a sudden, this was Friday, I think it was. Yeah, this is going to be in theaters. For those of you that are fortunate enough to live near a major city in the U.S., there's a good chance that there is a showing of Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Of course, these were tickets by Fandango. So by now, I believe all the different places are sold out. I'm actually going to pull up a list right now to see if there is any. Actually, I don't think you can even see at this point. Yeah, for instance, there's ones in Arizona, California, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, Wisconsin, Washington. So it's nice to see a lot of states that are in the Midwest getting a chance. Obviously, the West Coast there as well, even in the South, a couple theaters. So there's a lot of opportunity. So hopefully, if you're able to secure those tickets, you'll have a good time. That is going to be out on Monday. This is the other part of this news, is that they pushed the release date up a whole 24 hours earlier. And at the time, I was thinking, why would you do just that? It's great to get something early, but I was just trying to figure out what the rationale was. And I think Dominic put this pretty well. It's like, yeah, they're just trying to get another newsworthy kind of buzz thing on the websites to try to drum up hype more. But I mean, this was attached to the movie theater showing it early. So that's probably why they don't want people to come out of the theater and just start going on Twitter, blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, oh, wait, 24 hours and we already know that somebody is Darth Sidious's clone or something. Oh, no.
Yeah, I think part of this, whole pushing things back, it's kind of like their new shtick with Star Wars, because, we had that with Ahsoka. I seen people point out I think it was the 23rd, then pushed to the 22nd, or 24th to the 23rd, whatever it was, and then, Kenobi, similar type of deal, so it feels like it's kind of like their new shtick, like you mentioned, like Dominic, saying it's pretty much just like a news cycle generator more than anything. So I'll be honest, their original I'd be willing to place any amount of money. Their original plan was probably for it to come out on December 2nd. And they were saying, hey, let's just say it's December 3rd and then get people excited it's coming out December 2nd, you know, like it's just a marketing shtick, I think, at the end of the day, which, I mean, I'm fine with. Like, hey, give us the show a day earlier than what we originally thought. And, like, for people like us, you know, we can see into that sort of thing. But that honestly is a good strategy for the more, you know, mom and pop casual fans. They're like, oh my gosh, a Star Wars show's coming out a day early. That's awesome. Like, you know, it gets the more casual people excited. You know, for, like I said, for a lot of the more hardcore people in the know, it's like, you know, we can kind of see through it, but it's a good strategy.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I can see that. I also can see probably have to get it finalized with Fandango, with the theaters, all those logistics. Because guess what? There you don't see Ontario or Quebec or Alberta or anything there on that list. So obviously Fandango doesn't exist in Canada, but Cineplex isn't. We aren't getting those releases. It did. I'll get to how I was able to see it in a minute, in a little bit. But or I guess Chris will prompt me for that. But what was the train of thought? It did. Yeah, you mentioned Kenobi. You know how they. It feels a lot like that. You know, in Anaheim, we did have that premiere in the theater in the arena, and then immediately once it's finished, then it goes to Disney Plus. Then someone.
Oh, that was a fun moment. That was a fun moment in that theater with you, man. Like I was like, I can't believe I got in. It was our friend Aaron, just like, oh, I have this random extra wristband. You want? I'm like, do I want it? Yeah, I want it. I didn't get into the panel earlier to get it in the first place. So that was great. So shout out to her. She's in our chat usually from time to time.
And so that that does remind me of that. I will say my immediate thought was, this is looking ahead to 2026, 2028, whatever. Really reminding us that Star Wars truly belongs in the theater, or at least asserting that fact. And they're going to take these numbers and Lucasfilm was going to take all these numbers and take these box office dollar numbers and say, hey, Bob Iger, hey, Disney execs, like, this is where we got to go. This is the direction we got to go. They already knew that. Were going in that direction anyways, but that this is final nail in the coffin, final stamp of approval for that. Even though this is a streaming show, the one thing I'll say to kind of preempt my comments, it was really, really fun in the theater to watch those episodes. So it really worked really well. So, it definitely going in that direction. Yeah, and then people, the media buzz, because that's the thing about this show. I would kind of joke on Iron Canon, especially about their marketing campaign for this. Or was it? It was absent until a month ago.
Yep.
And now they're really picking up. It's funny, they're doing a lot of good things now.
Yeah.
That they normally, if they really wanted to plug this show, really wanted to hype it up massively, they would have done 6 months ago, 5 months ago, which they're doing for Andor now. So that's, again, that's this funny thing is, okay, great moves now. Where was this a few months ago? That's fine. I mean, all is forgiven. All is understood. If, again, this is a broken record now. I like the kind of the opportunity of streaming, of television, to tell a longer story, to go into it more detail. But it's just too financially risky. It has to be perfect, and that's the problem. Is even Dune Prophecy Season 1 is great, but I don't know if it's perfect in the way House of the Dragon and Rings of Power Season 2 are perfect. And I would say those are perfect and absolutely
Agreed.
Deep and profound. So the turn towards film is afoot.
Here's the thing, though, with the streaming service, I think their strategy more than anything else is we're letting this show speak for itself, which is a risky move because they're banking more or less like, oh, we'll save marketing costs just have the people watch the first 2 episodes in the theaters and whatever, and then they're going to go and tell their friends about how good this show is.
Yeah.
And then, but that could be risky too, because then you could see a show that's not really good, and there could be backlash, and then people say don't watch the show either. So it's very risky in that sense with the streaming, because with movies it's a whole different thing. Like movies, they want you to buy a ticket. You have to physically buy a ticket, and you have to be somewhere to watch something. So that's what the marketing is so crazy, because they're going to bombard you with that a whole year in advance if they can. Streaming, it's like a whole different animal. I think we're realizing that more and more.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if they were lessening expectations, and that's the thing. Like part of it, thinking I enjoyed it, were my expectations down. I mean, that's the thing with the Acolyte, is the expectations were so darn high. Not just because we're High Republic guys, but in part because we're High Republic guys. But also the marketing was for a lot longer, a lot more intense. The hype for Andor is going to be off the charts, and it better deliver. And I think it will. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is letting the show speak for itself, letting folks go into it without the kind of hype and preciousness that maybe some folks went into the Acolyte and others with.
Yeah, so if we watch this clip, well, we're not going to show it on stream now, but Lucasfilm Star Wars on their YouTube channel, they put out a clip for the Skeleton Crew, our first clip, and this one is called... Actually, there is no actual name for the clip. It's just called Official Clip, so there we go. But it's basically, it looks like it's probably for the first episode, I would imagine, right? Like you have the elephant-looking guy, Neil, stuck in his school bus, essentially, school bus speeder. His buddy, Wim, is late to class, sitting in, about to take an exam. Brings me back to days of middle school and high school. And then... he's just looking around, you know, Neil's looking around like, oh gosh, and there's this instructor droid that is okay. You're gonna get marked late or whatever if you don't come in here soon. But it's just very, very interesting. It brings you into the world of Skeleton and Crew with these little kids, which we're not used to seeing with Star Wars characters, especially in like an academic sense. We've seen a little bit of that actually in The Mandalorian season 2 or 3. I forget which one it was.
Grogu and the cookies.
Yeah, that one. There we go. But this gives us even more of a grounded in realism sense of like a suburban neighborhood in Star Wars and a kid just going about his day, not like worrying about the risk of the galaxy on his shoulders. He's just trying to get through his day. He's just trying to get to school, and then he takes out his speeder bike out of the garage, just starts flying around. There's an Ithorian that's walking down the street. This is
that's
pretty.
The species with the, I was thinking. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, what'd you think about this one, Ben? Did you check this clip out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. Like for me, when it comes to Skeleton Crew, I think my biggest thing going into it, like, you know, this clip solidified it, is like I wanted something different, something to like, you know, give us a change of pace for Star Wars. I mean, I've kind of said that since the first trailer for the show came out, like, and the first images, like, you know, we want something like just to, you know, to be a palate cleanser coming off of Acolyte. You know, it is what it is. You know, be kind of a palate cleanser, change of pace from that, be kind of a change of pace from Andor, you know, just give us something different. And, you know, I think that's what, you know, from this show, what I've seen so far, you know, that's kind of what it's giving us, that vibe of like giving us something different than, you know, than what those other 2 shows offered. So yeah, I definitely am interested to see where it goes with this whole sequence. But, you know, like we've known from pretty much Disney's entire history of marketing with these shows, it's most likely every clip we see will be from like first 2, maybe 3 episodes, and then we'll kind of be like moving on from there. So like this is, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, you know, Matthew, you don't have to spoil it or anything, but like it wouldn't surprise me if this was like the first 2 minutes of the episode or something. Like, you know, it like I could see something like this being very, very early on in the show.
Yeah, if I'm going to speculate, which is useless, because like I said, by the time this episode gets out to our podcast listeners, they'll have already watched the episode. But if I'll put 2 and 2 together, judge it by the trailer, judge it by this, I feel like he's going to stumble upon that. He's going to take that shortcut, and he's going to stumble upon that Sith tomb or whatever they find a ship in, and he's go back and tells his friend, "Oh, we got to go check this out after school," and he gets caught in detention because he gets late. Like I'm putting together this whole story in my head pretty quickly based on footage I'm seeing. But hey, I got less than 24 hours. Right now I'm gonna be sitting in the theater in New York City watching this thing 24
Which
hours.
theater are you going to?
It's AMC. I think it's in the Times Square one.
Nice. Okay, I'm just curious. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to comment on the spot. Like I saw it it came out the day before I saw the episode, so I was able to see it before the episode. I mean, just to say that exam room, and I felt the draft of the exam room. Like we've all been in there, with, like hundreds of our fellow students, just stressed. Like, what to do? Do I have all the answers right? Do I have this memorized? Am I going to forget stuff? Just locked in, ready to go. But yeah, just, that speaks to then what you're getting at, just this suburban environment, school environment that we all are so familiar with. At least those of us who've been to university or high school, university, and yeah, it was so funny. I was in the suburbs. I mean, that's the thing. It's the theater that they picked for this in Toronto area was in the suburbs, and so yeah, that's where I was. I mean, I grew up in the suburbs, so yeah, I was up with my parents. So yeah, it's just really, I mean, realist, but just enough Star Warsy. And that'll go into in when you'll see what I mean when in a whole other area I won't talk about, but also something that we've seen in a real world version of this, and then let me know when you see it, and then I'll tell you what I mean. But oh wow, this is the Star Wars version of that. That's wild. That's interesting. That's different, interesting enough because it's Star Wars. That's what I thought when I was seeing it on the big screen. So
yeah. My first response was like, I'll be honest with you guys. I was like, oh, I don't know if this feels like Star Wars right now. That was my first thought. I was like, oh, I don't know if they nailed it. I don't know if they nailed it. But as I'm sitting here thinking, a lot of our Star Wars stories start off in a mundane way, similar. Yeah. I mean, you go back to the original Star Wars, you have Luke Skywalker basically just farming. Like, that's what he was doing. He was moisture evaporator farmer. He was just messing with the droids to try to make these machines work more efficiently, trying to get them clued in. We have characters like Rey, who's just like a scavenger, just looking for junk. You got, just a lot of mundane things. So this is just another version of that, because my whole thing is, it feels really small scale for like a live action Star Wars production, which gets me worried, because I do need to feel like this does factor in, especially since we know it's tied into the Mandoverse. So I'm not too afraid of it not doing that, but right now it just feels like it's a little too small scale, but I'm going to give it its chance. And I'll save more thoughts on this for like our actual next thing we're going to get into, our general open discussion there. But at least that was my first initial reaction to this, was like, this is a really good design, really good production. I'm really liking what I'm watching, but it's just not hooking me as Star Wars-y enough right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so we'll see. I did skip over this when I was talking about the announcement of the year of a day advanced early viewing of these episodes. We did get a nice little image from Lucasfilm of, actually it did not go through. What I was going to show on the image was the directors that have been announced for the episodes and what they've been on, which ones. Okay, we got December 2nd, we have John Watts, that's episode 1. Episode 2, also on December 2nd, is David Lowery. Episode 3 is also directed by David Lowery on December 10th. For December 17th, episode 4, we have The Daniels, Everything All Everywhere All at Once. December 24th, Christmas Eve, episode 5, directed by Jake Schreier. December 31st, New Year's Eve, episode 6, Bryce Dallas Howard. January 7th, episode 7, Lee Isaac Chung. And wrapping it all up, coming around full circle, January 14th is the finale, episode 8, directed by John Watts. So for you guys, starting with Matthew, do any of these directors stand out for you as like, ooh, I can't wait for that episode?
always BDH. Always, she really Bryce Dallas Howard. Um, yes, on the one hand, carrying on the Howard legacy in a story that's kind of reminiscent of kind of the things her father would be acting in when he was a kid. But also, the kind of goofy, fun adventure that both Ron and Bryce Dallas have been known for. And I mean, one of my favorite live action, it was this small episode, but the Seven Samurai episode of The Mandalorian was one of my favorite ones that she did with the the walkers trying to, that weird walker, the brown painted walker, were trying to take over these rice farmers, and Din and Grogu and them trying to ward them off. So she did such a fantastic job telling that story. So I'm always looking forward to everything she does. I want her to do a feature film in Star Wars. Just to see her career really she's really made, I mean, again, I talk about carrying on the family legacy, but she's pushed it forward, and she's really made a name for herself. And then, having seen the first of John Watts already, you're looking forward to him wrapping it up. Again, also because he did, I should know this. He did the Spider-Man, or did he Into the Spider-Verse? Which one did he do? No, he did. Which Marvel did he do?
That MCU's Homecoming.
Yes.
Far From Home, No Way Home.
Yeah. So, which are three of the best Marvel MCU films, I would say. And so, you continue to see what he's going to do with these younger characters, especially. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, I would have to say Bryce Dallas Howard as well, because as I just said, my last statement is I want to see this in the bigger picture. We know her as directing episodes in basically every Mandoverse thing, at least one episode. Yeah. So she's going to probably be the person. I would imagine that episode she's on is where we're going to get some bigger connection to things. And I know it's not good in that manner to be like, I'm just looking for the connections. I know it's more important for the story of the characters, but I'm just really curious to see how this thing ties into anything. Are they in the same galaxy as Peridia, perhaps? Are they outside of their galaxy trying to get back? Like, this whole plot has been so... And it's good that nothing I've seen has leaked, or at least I've somehow avoided leaks and spoilers, but it is nice going into a story not really knowing anything about it at all. And I feel like she could have that key to open up that veil to be like, oh, this is where this is now.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to this show, I think that's one of the most intriguing parts about it right there is, like, it felt like it was such a tight production. We didn't get, many leaks at all, really. So, it's nice going into it pretty blind, really, versus, like, other shows we get, like kind of a general gist of what's going to be happening. And this show, it's kind of just like, hey, we're going into the dark, which is nice. And, like for me, when it comes to the talent behind the scenes on the show, I think the biggest thing for me of all is, like, obviously Bryce Dallas Howard's great, we all know that, but, like, my thing is like, John Watts is such a talented filmmaker and creative, like, just having him on the project, overseeing things, directing, but also, of course he's being heavily involved with the other 6 episodes he isn't doing. So, like, I just think having his input, it's a really nice touch, because the thing is with him, other than like his Marvel, like his filmography is good, and like he's put out, either solid or better type of things, versus like, if we were going into this, for example, and it was like, who's kind of like a 50-50 director, like James Mangold, for example. Sorry, James Mangold, but I got to use him as the example. Like, we have good stuff like, or Colin Trevorrow. We have good stuff like, like Logan and those sorts of things. And then you have the newest Indiana Jones. And so that would be kind of like, 50-50 going into this series. But John Watts is more just like, he's like solid or better at minimum. So it's like, it's nice there's kind of like a floor with him, I feel like. So it just gives me confidence going into the series that he's going to be able to, get the best out of the talent that's involved. And, that's really, really critical when it comes to child actors, because, say what you want about different like different aspects of the acolyte. Some of the acting from one of the two twins, like the kids, it just didn't work. And like my thing is, if like we'll know within a few episodes if the child actors are working or not. Mm-hmm. And that's like, it's just one of the toughest things in Hollywood, really. That's why you only have a few hits with younger kids, like E.T., like Stranger Things, like those sorts of things, versus how many other countless things just didn't work with younger actors. So like I think that's what going back around to my John Watts thing, that's what gives me confidence, because he's such a talented creative. Like I think he was able to really pick out, I'm not too familiar with the child actors involved in this, but it gives me confidence, like knowing he is involved with this. It's like, it gives me confidence he'll be able to get the best out of what these actors have to offer.
That's a really good point. That's a whole nother entity to this whole project that is a wild card, right? Is we haven't really seen a lot of Star Wars, as I said before, with kids this age. I mean, we've had little kids characters here and there, but as the main focal point, no, we haven't had anything like this. I will mention that the star-studded directors, I mean, you have the Daniels on this, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and apparently they were tapped to do this before they got really famous for that movie before it came out. So to see like their perspective, like two directors working so well together, but like how their zany brains work together to have this Star Wars story. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the other directors, but I know they have some really good credentials as well.
Nice. I mean, in that film, how many Oscars did that film win? I know it won Best Actress with Michelle Yeoh. I know Ke Huy Quan probably won Best Supporting. Did it win Best? It didn't win Best Picture that year, but still, it was definitely nominated.
I thought it did.
Might have been. I don't remember. But yeah,
I feel like it might have won. I don't know. I might be just retconning it, but I
gotta look this up.
I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, that's also making me excited for them. Because I mean that film is just bonkers all over the place.
Yeah.
It says American absurdist comedy drama, which is very apt.
Yes, we have David Lowery. He's most known for The Green Knight, which had a lot of recognition. Mm-hmm. Lee Isaac Chung, didn't he do Twisters?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I believe he recently directed the movie Twisters, which was really good. Apparently, a lot of people really enjoyed that one. As far as Jake Schreier, I would have to look that one up.
It sounds familiar. I'm on Googling right now.
Yeah, so I mean, either
Paper
way.
Towns. He's doing Thunderbolts.
Oh wow!
Whoa, really?
Yeah. Looks like it. Everything Everywhere All at Once won Best Picture, Best Director, and then Best Screenplay, Best Editing.
So this might be like the highest.
The acting. So yeah,
this might be the highest profile director list we've ever had for a Star Wars live action series. So if that's anything to give you a little bit of comfort into this series, not knowing what to expect, I think we at least will get a good series, if not great. But that's what we're going to transition. We're going to segue into just kind of random thoughts about the show. But first of all, I definitely want to hear about your experience, Matthew, with that screening in suburbs of Toronto there. First of all, how'd you find out about this thing? Was it just a lottery? How'd you get in?
So there are two ways to get in. They do have a list of cosplayer fans that they invite to these things. Usually it's at a theater downtown. So, pretty close to like the Sky Dome and all that downtown. So interesting, he was up in suburbia making everyone trek up there. So I saw a bunch of folks I recognized from Instagram and whatnot there. But also the Cineplex, the major Canadian chain, has a monthly membership. There were 4 different theaters across the country who were doing this, and it was this free family screening. It was 10 a.m. on a Saturday. So if you're willing to get up at 10 a.m. on a Saturday to go to watch a Star Wars, then here you go. If you're a member, this kind of paid $10 a month membership that they have. So I happen to be part of that membership. And so yeah, my mom and I went up the, the parents still up there, live around there. So I went and with my mom went to see Skeleton Crew in the theater that we saw The Force Awakens at. Actually.
Oh,
nice,
fun, good like throwback. So yeah, that was just a fun thing, like a fun like freebie, which is nice. But I have to get up Saturday morning, which yeah.
So walk me into this. So
yes,
talk me about how early did you. So it was 10 o'clock. Were you waiting in line for like an hour? Like how far in advance did you get there and all?
We got there maybe 9:15, 9:20, and it wasn't that crowded actually.
Because
I think if it was downtown, I think it would have been more, but because it was so remote, it might not have been. Yeah, and also again Saturday morning, so I don't know, but yeah, they're good. We were gonna say something.
Yeah, no, because the New York screening and all the screenings in the U.S. They did this with the Ahsoka Episode 5 screening, where it's like they give you they have allotment of tickets, but yet they have less seats than tickets that they give out for some reason. So they say clearly bold, like first come, first serve, even if you have the email. So that I'm thinking, oh no, how early do I have to get to this thing tomorrow to make sure I get in, even though I have an email? So I'm planning on getting there a good 2 hours early.
Yeah, probably a good call. Times Square.
But then again, it's Skeleton Crew, and like we said, like the marketing has not been great. So like, how many people even know this thing exists? You know what I mean? So it's like, who knows?
That was gonna be my question for Matthew. Actually, you talking about the people. Obviously, you don't have to go into spoilers, but what was kind of like the vibes you were getting from the people after the fact? Like, just the chit chat, when you know how it is when you get up from a movie where people saying like, oh, is this, what kind of like feel did you get just from like the general people that were there?
Yeah, I mean, I was mostly just thinking about my own thoughts, but to be honest, yeah, it was pretty chill, pretty fun. Pretty relaxed.
Yeah, nice.
People enjoyed it. It was a fun event to go to.
Nice.
Free pop and popcorn. So, sorry, free soda and popcorn.
Yeah.
Hey, we call it pop here too.
That's what you call it pop. I mean, I'm happy to chat about what I thought about them. Give a non-spoiler review if you want me to do that. But I don't know if that's going to get too spoilery. I don't know.
No, definitely say it. I'm just getting the ambiance on check here.
Yeah.
Like was the crowd audible at any point? Like did stuff happen and people would go ooh or laugh
I think
or
so.
clap?
I mean, I definitely laughed and chuckled a few times.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So, tell us about what you actually thought.
Yeah.
Of the
So
whole
I thought because I'm gonna keep giving my non-spoiler review until Wednesday, Chris, you and I can go into spoilers. just letting you know, production meeting there, Tractor Beam production meeting. So the thing is, our first episodes really need to kick off the story and give you just enough, while also making sure there's plenty of story to go, and not giving you the farm, selling you the farm here. And I thought these 2 episodes were the perfect balance of that.
Oh.
A lot of the questions that you guys have brought up, and probably have more questions, you're going to get some good answers to in the first 2 episodes.
Wow. Okay.
Just enough, really setting the world building, straightforward story. It doesn't, and maybe this might, I don't know if people will be criticize it for this. It isn't that complicated of a story, it seems like, from what I can tell from the first 2 episodes. It seems fairly straightforward, but also interesting as to what's going on. And it's, again, some of the questions you have. Then the question about whether or not the cast works, I will answer that one. You get that answer in the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes. The mix of these 4 kids is brilliant, and the way they're directed, right? Because you mentioned it's this whole variable of how are kids directed, how was Jake Lloyd directed, how was John.
Well, that's reassuring to hear. When you at first, the way you were saying that, I was like, Oh no! When you said the first 10 minutes before you said brilliant, I was like, "Oh boy, what's he implying here?" But okay, good.
They're delightful. They're funny. They are us as kids.
Okay.
You know,
that's a relief.
They there's 4 different type of characters.
Good.
You've and I think the promotional material has kind of shown what they are, right? Like how Wim is and how Neil is, and forget the names. Maybe I don't fully know what the promotional materials have shown, but it's these mix of these 4 kids, and they're all different. They all complement each other, including, I mean, the tensions that will come up between them is also interesting. So, that's especially how it's really gives us a lot in these first 2 episodes. That okay, now let's go into the second act of this show, starting on December 10th, to what happens next and where do they go and what do they do and why and what do they actually hope for and care about. And so that the world building question again, I think it gets pretty significantly answered, and it is interesting. That's all I'll say.
Thank goodness, because I really dislike it when some of these series just string you along for like 7 episodes to get like a crucial thing answered. So if it's answering what I think it might be answering, I'm like, okay, it's good to get like answers already in episode 1 or 2 that satisfy, but then lead into more questions. Like that's how you do a TV series. Like you finish episode 2 and you're like, crap, I want to see more right now, right? Like, is that your feeling, your expression? Was like episode 2 ended, you're like, I want to watch episode 3 right now.
Not in a pained way. That's the interesting thing, right? Is usually it's like, I want to see episode 3 right now because they didn't give us enough. And what are they? They're stringing us along. It was more, this is great. I want more of this. Looking forward to it. Because they don't string us along. It really is. Again, you could say, is that going to be boring? How is that going to hold up on rewatch? Maybe because we're just so used to the complexity of being strung along. But no, they really, they really give us just enough to really have a feel of what's going on and and ground us in the universe. And so. And again, it's a really interesting answer to your questions.
That's really good to hear. I mean, it's nice to hear. Like I mentioned when we first started talking about this, I think it's like a, sounding, just the way you're describing it, kind of a palette change from what we've been used to, and I don't mind that personally, just because it's something new. Like because Star Wars has kind of fallen into a lot of stock type of stuff in terms of storytelling. I mean, even just like some of the issues I had personally with like Andor, Acolyte, even Mando season 3. Some of those issues I feel like are, they aren't taking enough creative of a different tone shift, and like it feels like Skeleton Crew, just the way you're describing it, like just like the story structure itself is different, at least, which is nice because, like I said, it's kind of a nice change to the palette there. And it makes me wonder as well. I mean, you don't have to answer this because this could be considered a spoiler. You could just kind of like shake off this question. But since this is like such a different show, do they take the Ahsoka route? I mean, and give us an opening little word write-up, like opening crawl type thing, or is it just a crawl right into the
story? There's a bit of a crawl. And it also does help situate things. I will say it is a change of tone and it is a palate cleanser. I don't know if it's what you're thinking. I don't know if it's what you have in mind. I think it is something else.
Interesting.
So that's all I'll say there. That it is the thing. We've seen this in like films set on Earth, in whatever in our time or whenever in our timeline, if you will. I'm being very vague here, trying to be a spoiler. But this is the Star Wars version of that. That's fascinating.
Okay.
So, yeah. I mean, I haven't seen the Goonies, but people have made reference to it a lot. So,
as far as watching these two episodes on the big screen,
yeah.
do you feel like they really shined and were like good to be on the screen to watch on something big rather than a small screen? Like, did it really shine in that way?
Yeah, I mean, you see in the clip, right? Of the suburban town, the production design really pops, really stands out. Yeah, even into the different settings. Michael Giacchino, man, I forgot it was Michael Giacchino, but he's the man. He's the guy. He hasn't done a Star Wars since Rogue One, but he really, I mean, now he has the time to. I mean, I love the Rogue One score. He really has the time to write and think through and plot things out himself, and so that came through, of course, with the big screen audio. We do have good theaters in Canada, but not quite Alamo quality. But yeah. So that came out, and yeah, just the action. You really feel it, and there is action. I will say that, and the stakes. And that's another thing to say is it does a great job of laying the story itself does a great job of laying down the stakes involved for these kids, and you're seeing it on the big screen. The action of those stakes, the stakes involved in the action sequences really it brings it up. So.
Quick correction. So it's actually Michael Giacchino's son, Mick Giacchino.
Oh, Mick Giacchino. That's
that is actually doing this.
Right. I knew that. I think Michael Giacchino might have done the theme or something. I saw him in the credits. Unless he's Michael Giacchino Jr. Like, Michael. I don't know. Okay, I could be wrong about that. But still, great score. I enjoyed it.
Good to know.
So I have a question coming from a viewer, Chris Forsyth. Is it worth to take a bus an hour and a half both ways for a chance to get to see this in a theater?
Good question. I can't answer that for you. I need to see a Star Wars in a theater. Make an event out of it, make an outing out of it, get a hotel room. I don't know. I don't know what your life is like, but
well,
I mean, it was only a good 20-minute drive for me, but
yeah. So there you have it. Thanks so much for being our insider. First time we got an insider on Outer Rim Transmission. Matthew Neugebauer, you're the first, and hopefully not the last.
And I can come back to talk about some other things, like this is the Mon Mothma novel. I gotta actually read that.
Oh yeah, Reign of the Empire. Oh my goodness, what a story that is. Oh my gosh, that was good. But Ben, do you have? Let's put it this way. What do you hope to feel watching Skeleton Crew?
I don't know. I think for me, really, just give us a fun, just interesting Star Wars story. Like I mentioned, just change of pace. And I think just in general, from the cast being the way the cast is set up, will be that. I mean, focusing with kids, that's a huge change up. So I think that'll be an interesting enough hook for me just to see where they could take it. How far they could take it in terms of, if you're thinking from like the younger audience's perspective, like obviously it's hard to like compare it to like one of the best films ever in Jurassic Park, but think like, Jurassic Park, you have the kids like in the kitchen with the raptor and stuff. Mm-hmm. Are we going to get moments like that where it's like, if you're watching this as like a younger kid, are we going to have some moments where like it could be like that raptor moment, like a spooky moment for like the kids dealing with like an alien at some point in the series, or a creature or whatever, just because, versus us just getting like just some like, like where Jude Law could be like the middleman between the kids and other threats to the kids potentially. Like, are we going to get something along those lines where, is he going to just be the middleman, or is it going to be like the kids, actually dealing with something, that's threatening to them. So like that's something I'm looking out for this series. And then of course, like you mentioned, Chris, like we don't want to like put expectations too high on like connectivity and things just because of what this show is, what we've seen just publicly anyways. So it's just like I'm interested to see how it could connect to the Mandoverse, because for me, I don't want to like put it this way, but like it's, to me, this show almost feels experimental, where it's like, if this show does really good, Dave and John will throw these cast members into their movies potentially, and if this show doesn't do really good, they're just going to kind of push it off the side and just ignore it and just keep on moving.
Yeah, that is another thing I'm thinking about. What is the longevity of this cast? Are we going to see them, for the next 30 years popping up in other things? It's potential. It's potential, like you said. It really comes down to performance, how the engagement is online to these characters. And there's already a lot of good engagement, positivity around Neil Nation, everybody.
Well, yeah. And they are young enough. And one thing I forgot to mention, they are. This is a change of pace. I don't think this is much of a spoiler, but Mandalorian, it's Din's the main character and Grogu's the kid he's protecting. Bad Batch, yes, Omega is a main character, but it's the Batch is protecting her until season 3, and then she really comes into her own. In this one, the kids are the main characters, full stop.
Wow.
And again, so it's great that the performances, they nail the performances and the chemistry. So, that definitely is a nice change that we get. I mean, like you got Young Giant Adventures.
Oh yeah.
But the tone in that is so much different. The tone is more middle, more teenage, I will say.
Oh, good. All right, very, very good. Because I was hoping it wasn't more like, like elementary school, like real kiddie kind of thing.
It is kiddie. That much I will definitely say is not kiddie.
That was the biggest gripe, right? That was my biggest gripe for me, was watching some of the trailers, getting that like Disney Channel vibe from it, and going, oh no, I hope this is not meant for like 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds only.
It's a straightforward story. It doesn't string you along, doesn't throw you too many loops, but again, the stakes, they are real and they're serious. And
it's interesting, and I'll tell. I hope I feel like I feel when I watch Indiana Jones or the Goonies, what they're aiming for. They keep pushing this, and all the promotion, all the marketing is, this is going to be that adventure story, going through caverns, avoiding traps, avoiding pirates, having that Solo, a Star Wars story feel to it, where it's like non-force sensitive people running around and trying to make their way in the galaxy. And speaking of force sensitive, it is almost laughable how much they're putting the emphasis on gosh, I'm going to try to pronounce his name, Jude Law's character, as not being an actual Jedi. Because they're being so blatantly obvious in the marketing, where it's like, oh no, I'm a Jedi. Yeah, like there's like this hesitation where he has to keep reaffirming to these kids, oh yes, I'm a Jedi. Like he's obviously not a Jedi when he's being sarcastic like that, basically. So I'm just trying to figure out what his end game is. What was Jude Law? Is he like Haja from Obi-Wan Kenobi, where he's just a scammer and he's just using strings and magnets like he is with the character from the Dr. Aphra series with the Ascendant? Like
the Ascendant are cool as, but
yeah, they are cool. But that's my next thing, Ben, is this character played by Jude Law, and seeing, all right, what's his overall motive? He's obviously using these kids to get what he wants.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the real question of all of it. I mean, even not saying any spoilers one way or the other with the character. Like, I just think it's interesting because, like you said, if you just look at the marketing and what we have publicly, like I think, they're making it. Like if you read into this as like kind of a casual fan and not us like super detective Star Wars fans, like it would make it seem like it's like just too obvious he's a Jedi or something. Like it's, he's got to be some type of like Aja character, or just something like that. Like there's got to be like some ulterior motive or something like that. Just because you have just that sort of obviousness to it all. But then again, then it's like the flip side of it. Like Matthew, I've joked about this like probably a year ago when we first started talking about Skeleton Crew and seeing Jude Law and things like that. Like what if big picture, like we have this whole thing here, and we're always talking about how these projects are building up the sequels a little better. Like, what if Jude Law ends up being Force sensitive and ends up being like one of Luke's first Jedi people at his academy? I mean, maybe they do something like that if Dave's like planning big, like, or like just the people involved with this, are in, setting up maybe something big picture like that. Maybe they do something like that, because like it's either going to be too obvious and he's not, or it's going to be like we're going to get to it and they're going to be like, haha, we've been showing you guys from day one and nobody believed it. Like,
I'll say it's certainly possible. I'm trying not to spoil too much what they show or not, but I will say the one question they do keep lingering is that they don't answer that in the first. They don't answer much about him in the first 2 episodes. So I'm still gonna join in the speculation here. Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering, is he actually a Jedi or not? Again, given when this is set after of course 5 years out, part of the Mendoverse, out in the galaxy, the Order isn't what it was. It wasn't what it was during the late Republic and the High Republic, right? It's something else. It's just like Luke's doing his thing and Ahsoka's doing her thing, and maybe this Jod's doing his thing. Who knows? That is where does he fit in that whole spectrum of Jedi-esque or Force-esque, or who knows what he's doing-esque folks. Because again, it's also not illegal like in the Empire. So there's that aspect to it too. It's a good lingering question that that they showed that these 2 episodes do leave us with. Thankfully, we only have till December 10th to hopefully get some more answers there. But more it is intriguing, and it is interesting that you guys picked up on that in the marketing, that they haven't. They kind of want us to think he's a Jedi in the marketing, but to say, oh wait, do they want us to think that too much? Is maybe what you're getting at. So, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, and then I think another interesting part about all of this is like maybe, this is gonna work. Maybe we get a few moments in this series with him where it's gonna be like your Anakin talking to Qui-Gon in episode 1, where it's like, oh, you're a Jedi, blah 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 blah. Like maybe we get a few moments of that where. It's like that type of kid interacting with potential Force user, and maybe it's like the reverse of Qui-Gon, where it's like Qui-Gon was a Jedi and then Jude Law's character is not at all, or something. So like maybe it's like the reverse of that, where Qui-Gon's helping and then Jude Law's character is not.
I mean, I almost wonder. Like my mind went to Balin. Now he's also doing another character doing his own thing. Using traditions of the Jedi, having Shin wear the braid, having this apprentice, but being this rogue mercenary who's willing to do what he wants, but has, like you guys are suggesting, has this other end game in mind. I don't know. From my impression, is it's not as grand as Balin's, and I guess Shin now. Who knows what they're gonna do in season 2 of Ahsoka, but. There is. I mean, that's the interesting thing. Like you guys are mentioning, like I was mentioning in terms of Luke and Ahsoka and Balin and Shin and all these characters. There's just the rules, or because the Order is gone. The categories and rules of what a Jedi is and what a Darksider is and a Sith, and they're not going to be gray Jedi, but folks are maybe a little more nefarious. Who knows? And then you get the fact that there are these kids in the equation. These kids who are largely bright, wide-eyed, pretty innocent, as kids tend to be, a bit more innocent than adults. How might that affect him and change his goals or not? Again, in terms of the stakes and the direction his character goes, if he is more nefarious, what does that mean for him to acquiesce to these kids in terms of maybe his character development? What does it mean for him to resist the influence of these kids? In turning maybe more towards the light, if you will. Yeah, he is this interesting. It's this interesting foil because I don't think he's the main character. Right, the kids are especially Wim, this kid. He is the focus, and so almost to say what are the effect that these kids have on the wider galaxy. Maybe Jude Law is almost a stand-in for that to some extent. Just the way the Force. The cosmic force can instantiate itself kind of archetypally, and I'm using big words here, symbolically in a character arc. I don't know. I don't have the answers for you either.
So
it's good questions.
Yeah, good points there. You're drawing the line to me. My line of thinking goes to another series, animated series that we at the IPC, the Intergalactic Peace Coalition podcast, Ben and Zach, we have this group called the Jurassic Boys, and we also talk about Jurassic Park. And we just recently did a review for the second season of Jurassic World not Camp Cretaceous, that was a prequel series, Chaos Theory. But in Camp Cretaceous, it's about a group of kids about the same age as these kids in Skeleton Crew, and they're the main characters, and they have these adult characters in the story, and they're more like the antagonist, these adult characters. And every season they have like a new adult antagonist for the most part. So I'm almost looking at that as like the archetype for what this series maybe could be, as we continue to flesh out the characters, have these adults as the foils to the kids, and maybe multiple seasons see them with different antagonists spread throughout. So there's a formula that could work, that has proven to work with at least the Jurassic World franchise. So
yeah, I mean that formula can definitely work. Like you said, Jurassic World, it works. I mean, to an extent, of course, this show we're not aging up the characters, but like, think about it. Even in The Last Crusade, like the beginning of that, you have like a young teenage Indiana Jones, and or that might have been in Raiders of the Lost Ark, whichever one it was, when he starts out as a teenager, and they swipe the the idol or whatever from him on the train, all that sort of thing, like that whole thing. It can work having an older antagonist. It all comes down to the story. Like that's the important thing. Like when it comes to all of these things, like story isn't there, it'll never work. But like on paper, this show has good potential just based on what you've mentioned, Matthew, in terms of the kids acting, and then just the talent behind it. I think it has really good potential to be just a good sound story.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. So anybody have anything else they want to say about Skeleton Crew before we start wrapping things up tonight?
All I'll say is the name of the series is a nice little double entendre pun. It's fun. It's fun.
Interesting. Very
it is worth making. I mean, Chris, I don't know if you're the one who's doing the hour-and-a-half drive bus. But it's worth. I mean, it's definitely worth. It's Star Wars in the theater. That's another thing to say. Is like I said before, it really feels at home in the theater. Obviously, we're going to get it on Disney Plus, but yeah, Lucasfilm keep doing things like this. I was able to see Kenobi at the theater they usually do these things at. The whole series, all the way through in an afternoon to an evening.
Wow.
Those kinds of things. And it really worked really well. So I hope they continue to do just building up this whole expectation of Star Wars as a theater event. It was
Yep.
fun. It was a fun outing.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing more of the unsavory type focused on in a Star Wars series, similar to Book of Boba Fett, similar to Andor, right? Getting these series that are not focusing on Force sensitive, but the bounty hunters, the smugglers, the criminals. Like, I've always just been drawn to them, which is why I like Star Wars Outlaw so much. So there's another entry this year that's going to give me that underworld vibe of Star Wars, which I always crave. So
Yeah, I mean, I can echo both of your guys' points. I think for me, the biggest takeaway with this show is like, I don't know, I'm excited to get more Star Wars content back, versus just being in like the dead time where we don't have much to talk about. Even though this dead time, Chris, we've had plenty of news stories to talk about. Typically between shows, it's like, we're just like cranking out whatever topics come up, and now we have Star Wars for like the next 7-8 weeks, and it'll be nice to, get back in the swing of things, talking about it. And I just think, I don't know, good, bad, ugly, anywhere in between. I don't know. It's always fun to talk about Star Wars, whether it be, our gears covering Mando or Acolyte or Andor or Kenobi, Bad Batch, and anywhere in between. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's more fun to talk about Star Wars, whether it's you like it or don't like it, than just having some random topic to talk about. Like, it's fun talking random topics, don't get me wrong, like top 5 this, top 10 that, whatever. But it's always fun to talk about Star Wars being back, like, in terms of a show. And then, after this, only a couple months after this show, we'll be heading into Andor, which is nice. So, like, it's nice we're going to be, really getting Star Wars content for the first half of 2025, really.
oh yeah, we only have to wait 2 months, February, March, then we'll be in the month of Andor. So there you go. You go. All right, so thanks so much for joining me and Ben today, Matthew. It was great to have you on here. Go ahead, plug all your stuff.
Yeah, it's great to be back. I think it's my second or third time being on OTR, so happy to chatting about a live action Star Wars, which I don't do all that often. What I do often is, guess what, guys? You get every Wednesday a Star Wars comes out. At least 1 or 2 or 3, sometimes 3 new Star Wars stories coming out every single Wednesday. It's in the comic book medium, very vaunted medium of comic books. And yeah, on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel, this guy right here, Chris Abbott, and I chat about the books that came out that week. That's on the Tractor Beam Comics Reviews. That's 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel. On the same channel, every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, Joel Davis and I chat about all sorts of stuff, deep dives, intellectual things. Maybe not always so intellectual, just fun topics. What did we talk about this past week on the Ion Canon podcast? We've talked about the Jedi being relatable and how the Jedi have been depicted, and what does it mean for Star Wars to go in different media and different ideas. Just on the eve of the election, we did an election special just talking about Star Wars and democracies and what they need to survive. So those intellectual, philosophical deep dives, deep cuts that we go into. Also, maybe you can do a bit of book reviews here and there, but kind of moved away from that a little bit. So, but really, diving in. So this week, this Monday, tomorrow night, we're talking about holidays. Given American Thanksgiving, given Christmas is kind of around the corner, talking about holidays in Star Wars. An abbreviated episode. Usually we go kind of 2 hours, but we're gonna try and do our darndest to keep it to 1 hour, so that we can all go back and watch Skeleton Crew, and not keep our live viewers captive and let them go watch Skeleton Crew as well. So we'll keep that one to an hour, but usually go with 2 hours. And so that's the Iron Cannon podcast every Mondays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel. Also, the Star Wars Underworld Discord server. I don't know. I guess if you go to any Underworld show on the channel, there's a link in the description there, or you can DM us on social. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, and Blue Sky. On Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, we're at Ion Cannon Pod, EYEONCANONPOD. That's Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. At Blue Sky, we're ioncannon.bsky.social. And of course, I am also my personal socials. Still on Twitter, NEUG485, Instagram, MNEUG1138, and beaches.foodie, FOODIE. I haven't posted there in a while, but I gotta pick that up. Bless your timeline with some fried chicken. Why not? There you go. And I'm also on Blue Sky, MNEUG1138 at BSKY .bsky.social. Any more plugs? Am I blanking on any more plugs? I don't know. I think that's about it. Again, looking forward to Tractor Beam, looking forward to Iron Cannon, and looking forward to being able to talk about talk about this on Wednesday.
Yeah.
As well as Battle of Jakku. What's the word? Republic Under Siege.
Republic Under Siege number 2 and number 3.
2 and 3. We're gonna talk about 2 and 3, and we'll talk about this episode. Joel will be on because he's keeping up to date on Republic Under Siege on Battle of Jakku. So this will be a special episode with all 3 of us, which will be fun.
Wow.
We can talk go to the spoilers and everything. Because there's some things about this episode I do want to get into, but I'm holding off because spoilers. But spoilers. I hate them. I don't even read Marvel solicits, guys.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I'd actually stopped reading them, and then I get stuff on my timeline where it's like from the official person at Marvel. It's sending out tantalizing images of characters reappearing again. I'm going, why couldn't I have just experienced this on Wednesday? I would have screamed in my car again the same way I screamed when Dr. Afra showed up.
Good old Afra. Good old Charlie. So looking forward to those conversations.
Oh yeah, you guys always have a great going back and forth. You and Joel Davis there on the Eye on Canon podcast. Really good, insightful stuff, really deep stuff that I can't even fathom. You guys are so articulate with what you say and what you come to mind and speak of is just, you feel like you're taking a college class sometimes with listening in.
How we roll. College or graduate seminary theology degrees, whatever I do. I forgot to mention we're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts now, so just back on there for both Iron Cannon and Tractor Beam. So if you search Iron Cannon podcast, you'll find the last few episodes of Iron Cannon, and then if you search Tractor Beam comics reviews, you'll find the last few episodes of Tractor Beam. If you're desperate and you really want an audio version of a previous episode, again, DM me and I'll see what I can do. But that's where you can find us on wherever you get your podcast. Well, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, but the main 2.
There we go, the main 2. What about you, Ben? You can go ahead, plug your stuff, plug Milton's stuff.
Yeah. Thanks again, Matthew, for joining us. It's always fun when you're hopping on. But yeah, you can find me on X and Instagram at RealBenMaynard. I'm always talking Star Wars, fitness, football, and that's pretty much it. And then you can find Milton on Twitter at MiltonWeber7, and then his Instagram is Milton7Weber. He's always really more active on there, like always posting fitness or life updates and things. But yeah, that's where you can find us.
Nice.
There you go. You can follow me right here on youtube.com/Starrapter. We'll be back, Milton, Ben, and I, to talk about the first 2 episodes of, you guessed it, Skeleton Crew, next Sunday, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern. And you can find us on any podcast streaming service. Just search Outer Rim Transmission. Again, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever else you could find podcasts, we will be there. So for Milton, who couldn't join us, for Matthew, for Ben, for Chris, aka Starrapter, that's going to do it for Outer Rim Transmission, episode 177. Until next time, may the Force be with you always, and transmission.